Have you ever sat in an interview, your heart racing, only to completely fumble the question about your biggest mistake? It's a common trap. You describe the fire, the chaos, and the stress, but you forget to tell them how you put it out. Most people fall into what I call the storytelling gap. They give the interviewer a tragedy instead of a triumph. But what if you could restructure those messy memories into a narrative architecture? Basically, a blueprint for your story that makes you look like a hero? Think of the STAR framework as the steel skeleton of that blueprint. Before you can put up the glass windows or the fancy lobby, you need a solid frame to hold everything up. In an interview, that frame has 4 parts: situation, task, action, and result. The situation sets the scene, while the task defines the specific problem you faced. Then comes the action, which is where you describe exactly what you did. This is the core of your story. Finally, the result shows the tangible impact of your work. Without this structure, your experience is just a pile of bricks. With it, you're building a monument to your professional success. But even with a perfect structure, there's a hidden trap depending on who is listening to you. If you're taking an exam, the examiners are looking for linguistic range. They want to see complex grammar and sophisticated vocabulary. They're testing your academic muscles. But in a job interview, the priority shifts toward impact and soft skills. Take a candidate I coached recently. She was technically flawless, using advanced idioms and perfect sentence structures. Yet she struggled to land the role because her stories felt like a vocabulary list. She described her tasks, but she didn't explain the value of her actions. The hiring manager didn't need a poet, they needed a problem solver. To become that problem solver, you first have to avoid what I call the victim trap. This happens when you spend more time describing the obstacle than the way you actually overcame it. Imagine you're asked about a project that fell behind because a teammate was consistently missing their deadlines. It's incredibly tempting to vent about their lack of professionalism or how much extra stress it caused you. But when you do that, the interviewer isn't thinking about that person's mistakes. They're wondering if you're someone who focuses on blame rather than results. You want to acknowledge the hurdle briefly and pivot immediately to your proactive response. To make that pivot feel natural, you can use a psychological strategy called retrospective reconstruction. This is the idea that you can find a story by starting with a specific skill you want to highlight and working backward to find a memory that fits. Research in cognitive psychology shows that human memory isn't a video recording, it's a reconstructive process. This means your brain is incredibly efficient at assembling a narrative based on a central theme. This is the problem-solving pivot in action. Instead of searching your mind for a perfect memory, identify a common hurdle, like a communication breakdown, and let your brain pull forward the specific details of a time you successfully navigated it. When you frame your experience as a turnaround, you aren't just saying you did your job, you're signaling that you have the strategic vision of a leader. Think about the historical turnaround of a brand like Lego. In the early 2000s, the company was on the brink of total collapse because they had lost sight of their core product. Rather than applying superficial fixes, leadership executed a massive strategic pivot back to the bricks. They identified the root cause, stabilized the core operations, and completely rebuilt the brand's identity from the ground up. By using this turnaround structure in your own answers, you mirror that same high-level authority and command immediate respect. To see how that actually sounds in a real conversation, I think back to a time I managed a software launch where a major bug threatened to derail everything just 48 hours before the deadline. In an interview, I'd answer like this: "We faced a critical system error right before launch." Instead of panicking, I audited the team's workload, reassigned 2 developers to the priority fix, and negotiated a 24-hour extension with the client. We hit the new deadline with 0 errors. To make this feel effortless, use micro-story drilling. That's where you repeat the key actions of your story out loud until the sequence feels like muscle memory. Once you have those stories drilled into your memory, the pressure of the interview starts to shift. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking the perfect candidate is a hero who never encounters a single roadblock. But that's not what recruiters or examiners are really looking for. They want to see a problem solver. They want to see someone who can face a crisis with clarity, stay composed under pressure, and methodically move from a mess to a clear, actionable solution. By building this narrative architecture, you're showing them exactly how your mind works when the stakes are high. You aren't just recounting a past event, you're proving that you have the tools to handle whatever challenge comes your way next. I'd love to hear how you put these skills into practice. Share one of your own STAR success stories in the comments to help sharpen your narrative. It's a great way to practice and build our community of growth together.